The people of the old world learned long ago not to enter the dark forests alone, for the beastmen call them home, and they are always on the prowl. Something wicked this way comes as Malagor the Dark Omen and his Bray Herd descend on Thorgrim Grudgebearer and the Dwarfs in yet another multiplayer match on SFO Grimhammer. Again, my opponent will be Aerokrastic, and I figured this would be a great opportunity to show off Beastmen Giants, a unit that's gotten quite a bit of love in recent patches. But the Titans of the Forest aren't the only monsters that we have to fear. Slaangors are sexy goat people marked by the Dark Prince himself, and it's better to die than let them capture you for post-battle festivities. Don't feel bad for the Dwarfs though. They know the forests are dangerous, and they've come fully equipped to deal with the threat. Trollhammer Torpedoes are absolutely brutal, and the High King was sure to bring the Damaz Kron along for the ride, smacking cowmen around with one hand, riding pages of grudges with the other. Dwarf Engineers can be a nasty little surprise with their hand mortars in tow. So, Giants got a huge buff in the most recent SFO patches. They have some really cool new abilities like Wild Roar, which lets them close the gap quite a bit better if you're the Beastman variant, but each Giant in the game has their own version of that ability now with its own unique effect. Trample is exactly what it sounds like, basically a thunder stomp from the tabletop. It deals damage in a constant AoE right at the feet of the monster as he grinds enemy troops beneath those big hairy toes. And he's got Strider and Strong Vigor. Gets a big speed boost from Bestial Surge whenever Malagor casts a spell. Has 50% missile resist on top of all that. So the hope here is that they can actually make it into melee and do something useful for a change, instead of getting, shredded to pieces on the way in like we've seen so often in vanilla. Now, as we shift over and take a look at our leader, Malagor is quite a bit different than he is in vanilla. Super fast because of those crow wings, which is the least you could do if you're going to give him wings and not actually let him fly. And he has a mix of Lore of Beasts, Lore of Shadows, and Lore of the Wild. Cygor Summon, Bray Scream, and Pit of Shades in this battle, alongside that nice little leadership and defense penalty with Something Wicked This Way Comes. He's a much more powerful caster and much more mobile in this mod, which I think fits him pretty well. For the main line, we're going to take a look at all these guys kind of crowded into the forest. Blackhorn's Ravagers are quite elite now. Lightly armored shock troops with Armor Sundering, Stalk, Vanguard, and Perfect Vigor. Awesome unit for ambushing dwarfs, and in fact, pretty much the entire Beastmen roster has Vanguard now, which really opens up tactical options for them. A lot of fun to mess around with. As are the Slaangors of the Dark Prince. Fast as heavy cavalry, high AP, and immune to Psych with that Mark of Slaanesh. They're more brittle than other Mark Bestigor units, but make up for that by being able to pick and choose their engagements. And they've got a nasty little surprise waiting in the back of the map for the right moment to surround the brave Dawi. Some extra gore and some more Slaangor waiting to charge them from behind and shut down those range units permanently. And the nice thing is that Beastmen are way faster in this mod, so you can afford to Vanguard deploy them farther away because they will be able to catch up relatively quickly. Now for Aerokrastic and the Dwarfs, Thorgrim Grudgebearer is a tanky buff machine, no other way to put it. You can summon Ancestral Shieldbearers to his side, knocking back enemies and giving him some angry dwarf ghost to control, while his Oath of Vengeance severely debuffs enemy speed and melee defense, and the Damaz Kron gives him constant charge bonus and melee attack in a huge AoE, and he's got a 15% ward save on top of everything else. Really good lord. Awesome to see him make it onto the battlefields of SFO. Got 2 Slayers to patrol the back lines, Grumbling Guard on the left flank. They buff Friendly Vigor in an AoE and have a bonus for large, so they can trade well into infantry, into cavalry, or monsters. They're going to be pretty useful against the Beastmen. Their visuals have been reworked a bit as well. A few more Longbeards and Dawi great weapons, going to round out the rest of the infantry, but a lot of eggs are being put in the ranged basket here, with Irondrake Trollhammer Torpedoes taking center stage. They've got a nice little contact effect to lower missile resist, very high missile damage, and they will melt large targets. The Dawi are honestly designed as a touch of death faction in SFO. Me and Arrow have played a bunch of games with them, and they're a race that is designed to completely nuke high-value units into oblivion in seconds. Super high burst damage, but if you can avoid or survive through those initial salvos and compromise the rear, it's going to look a lot better for you. Dwarf Engineers are a really cool unit. They've got hand mortars or grenade launchers meant for exploding blobs, and a Master Engineer to back them up, and the Iron Drakes as well. Gives some incredibly nice buffs, and you can even switch from a shield-breaking, high-powered rifle to a devastating Grudge Raker with just the press of a button. Pretty awesome. Very useful hero if you want to bring a ranged focus build. Buffs up artillery, buffs up your handgunners, really nice stuff. So those are the builds. Let's get into the match, and we're going to get it kicked off with Aerokrastic unleashing volley after volley of those exploding grenade launchers into the air, just narrowly missing the very quick Ungors, who I think move at around 50 speed, so a lot of the Beastmen infantry way faster than it is in vanilla. Gonna be nice meat shields here, but if those grenade launchers make contact, they are going to get absolutely exploded. We'll do our best to avoid those for now. And the first Ungor Spearmen gonna make contact with the Dawi great weapons on the front lines. Now the Giants are gonna want to hang back a little bit here. Those Trollhammer Torpedoes, I'm not kidding you, will melt them in seconds. We gotta be really careful about our positioning. It's gonna be a pit of shades. Gonna drop down on top of those Trollhammer Torpedoes, do what kind of damage it can, and disrupt that formation for a while, but they do have high magic resist and high armor as well. So probably not gonna do that much. And look at that damage. That's what I'm talking about. That was one volley of Trollhammer Torpedoes buffed out by the Master Engineer, and the Giant is already almost to half HP. Crazy. So I'm thinking, like, alright, even with that 50% missile resist, like I said, Dawi are a kiss of death faction. They are brutal if their artillery or their range units get in range of you and get some good shots in. Giant gonna have to hang back for a while, or he's going to melt away. And the other one also now getting targeted by the torpedoes as the Vanguard shenanigan ambush comes in from behind and tries to tie him down. So there's one very clear thing that has to happen here. Use those Harpies and the Vanguard ambush to get in and tie down those Trollhammer Torpedoes before the monsters die. But Thorgrim Grudgebearer got something to say about that, slamming into the flank of the Slaangors. And as the Longbeards fight it out, it's going to be a tough fight for them, but buffed up by the Book of Grudges and by their Lord, might be able to hold the line for a while there. If you're playing against Beastmen, you gotta make sure you have a lot of reserves, because what's happening right now is a very common theme in SFO, because their entire roster has Vanguard. There is almost always going to be the threat of a bunch of infantry coming in from behind, and if you don't have the reserves like Aerocrastic has right now, if you don't have that layered defense, then your range units will have nothing to protect them, and they will instantly get shut down. But Slayers are doing a very good job of making sure those Harpies don't sit on top of them for very long before getting cut to pieces. But the Slaangors on the front lines doing a very good job cutting through the regular Dawi great weapons. Giant making it into combat with half HP, stomping through. Those do have a bonus for Slaughter, so he's not going to stay there. Use that Wild Roar and push through. And with Bestial Surge, he can get his speed up to 60, which is a great way to close the gap. Look at how fast that Giant is moving right now and straight into the back of those Dawi meat shields. One swing of that club gonna bring down quite a few of them, and some Frost Breath, Kryptonian Ice Breath going their way will kill a few more. Backed up by the Gores, I think those Dawi are not going to enjoy that fight. Over here on this side, Thorgrim Grudgebearer has still carved his way through the entire left flank of the Beastmen, up to almost 30 kills. That's a lot of high value kills, because Slaangors are incredibly expensive. I believe like 1,400, 1,450 gold, something like that. And a nice little pocket for Aerocrastic, already making sure those Harpies rout from the field. One Giant already hiding in the back of the map. He's like, ow, those Trollhammer Torpedoes, they hurt too much. I'm going to sit back here for a while. Pretty smart idea. And a pit of shades on top of the Slaangor and on top of the Longbeards. It's going to kill both of them. It doesn't matter what gets in the vortex. If you're anywhere near it, there's a very good chance you're going to be sucked up into the warp. And so the Slaangor and the Dwarf Warriors are going to get shredded by that mean vortex, and Malagor is just going to laugh about it. He doesn't care. As long as Dawi die, he's happy with it, and many of his elites will also die as well. Probably put that a little bit too close to my own infantry. Giant probably about to terror rout the units on the back left of Aerocrastic's formation, and he has retreated to a nice little citadel around Thorgrim Grudgebearer and reform the lines. Reform the lines to make sure that Thorgrim's in a good spot. Now, he has not summoned his Ancestral Shieldbearers yet, but he is going to be able to make sure that all of the Beastmen infantry on the left flank die. Slayer's in a good spot to make sure the Slaangor can't get in. More Trollhammer Torpedoes just shredding that poor Giant alive. Doesn't care about missile resist when they get a full volley in on top of that huge target. None of them are going to miss. It's way too big a hitbox. So you're seeing it just get ripped apart, down to 1/3 HP now, only a few salvos later, but he is going to make it in with that extra speed. Wild Roar and the Bestial Surge helping so much to allow that Giant to close the gap and actually make an impact on this battle. And Blackhorn's Ravagers with their Vanguard deployment and their very high rate of speed, charging in from behind, and they are going to slice apart those Irondrakes. No hope for them. Cygor summoned from Savage Dominion, gonna saunter his way into the middle of the battlefield, gonna drop some Waystones on the heads of his attackers, and the Ancestral Shieldbearers right there have been summoned, and they're right in the thick of the action here, buffing stuff up, and they do cause terror, which normally would be amazing but a lot of the infantry for the Beastmen, though it does have low leadership, at least the Slangors, they have immune to Psych, so they will not terror route, which is an important interaction. Giant is about to go down. Thorgrim Grudgebearer using his Axe of Grimnir to stab that ass over and over and over again, and that poor monster is just like, why are you doing this to me? I want out. I'm out. Peace, boys. And he's going to walk off the battlefield. He's got slivers of HP left, only about 200. Malagor the Dark Omen charging in from behind, and a nice sandwich on that isolated dwarf unit over on that side. Slayer's giving chase to the Giant to make sure he doesn't come back. Cygor down to half HP, and as Thorgrim does a drive-by, slicing the head from that Gore's shoulders, he's going right for the other Giant. Manimal that he is. If he can eliminate both of those humongous monsters from the battlefield, that'll be a huge swing in the Dwarfs' favor. Ancestral Shieldbearers doing a great job of just tanking and tar pitting a huge swath of the Beastmen Brayherd. Slayers doing what they can as well, and now we've got a 1v1 between a Giant and Thorgrim. It does not get more epic than that. Can the leader of the Dawi, can the writer of the Damas Kron, the Book of Grudges, the High King, take down the Giant? At the moment, looks like he might be able to. One of the Giants is routing, other one about 2,000 HP or so, but that will drop very quickly, especially when there are some Slayers and other elite Dawi infantry in the mix. But the Cygor summon is still around, beating on top of that Master Engineer. Slayers in the center probably going to fall relatively soon, and even those venerable Ancestral Shieldbearers starting to take some damage. No magical damage nearby, I don't think, but they just have a small HP pool. Slangor on the verge of routing Malagor the Dark Omen into the thick of things as well. Thorgrim Grudgebearer down to half HP, and Slayers are giving their lives over and over again to keep the High King in the fight. Both sides pretty tattered. If both Giants die, the Cygor summon will drop, and that bounce bar could shift pretty heavily in the Dwarf's favor, but the other Giant just came back at about 200 HP because it has very high leadership. It was able to come back. Plenty of routing on both sides. Thorgrim Grudgebearer running for the hills right now, but he will rally. Nothing really over there to give chase. Cygor just gonna drop. He's exhausted. He needs a nappy poo. Gonna drop on top of the Ungors and kill a few unfortunate ones. That's very chaotic. That's very Beastman. Don't really care where I lay down. Just gonna lay down on top of the Ungors. Nobody likes them anyway. And the other Beastmen Giant just routed, this time at 80 HP. That's insane. So both Giants here, literally one hit from death. That is a huge swing on the balance bar. If both Giants were actually dead, army losses would probably have no chance of kicking in anytime soon for the Dwarfs. As it stands, Thorgrim and the remnants of the Dawi army rallying forward to their king. Even the Grumbling Guard getting chased down, but Thorgrim drive-by again, swinging and slaying in that Axe of Grimnir and jibbing dozens of them with each swing of that axe. But a huge mass rout looks to be incoming for the Dwarfs, and balance bar shifting heavily in their favor. And that is so unfortunate, because if those Giants died there, I don't think army losses kicks in, and I'm not sure the Dwarfs are able to take that game, but that would have gotten very close because there was not much left on the field that could actually damage Thorgrim besides those Giants. Just the fact that each one of them, the 80 HP Giant and the 200 HP Giant, could have strode forward and attacked him one or two times, that would have been more than enough to seal the deal. But if they had died, and that effective HP pool tie between both them of 300 HP had disappeared, then I think that could have gotten really, really close at the end. As it stands though, it was a relatively close battle. Thorgrim Grudgebearer definitely did a lot of work. 50 kills isn't incredible by any stretch of the imagination, except that it was pretty much all on Slangor, which are very high tier elite AP shock troops. So Thorgrim did plenty of work that battle, and his summon also would have done much more work if it wasn't against Slangor, who have immune to Psych. That terror would have been so useful against normal Beastmen, but unfortunately, Slangor are also very good against the Dwarfs, because they're super fast, can outmaneuver them, and also have high AP. So most of them did pretty well in this battle. I was pretty happy with the Giants, all things considered. The burst damage of the Dwarfs is insane. You saw those Trollhammer Torpedoes just absolutely melt. It would have been the same thing if it was cavalry or trolls or what have you. The Giants melted, but I was patient with them. I brought them back, let them take cover in the safety of the forest, and then brought them in at a later time, and they each got a chevron out of it. which was pretty good. I think that the engineers for the dwarfs were not the right call. I think there's a little bit too many eggs in the ranged basket. They're very expensive and ended up not doing very much. Just the 2 Trollhammer Torpedoes backed up by the Master Engineer and then saved that for an elite infantry unit in the center of everything could have provided that anchor that would have let the Dawi take that game, because as it stands, it was a pretty close one. GG to Aerocrastic. Hope you guys enjoy it.